Wars are struggles not only for territory, but also for human dignity and freedom. Ukraine's resistance is one of the most striking examples of this struggle. Today, we will explore the extraordinary resistance of the Ukrainian army against Russian attacks with armored vehicles, the destruction of a Russian tank convoy, and the behind-the-scenes story of this fierce battle. Get ready to witness the challenging and inspiring face of modern warfare. So, let's take a closer look at this epic struggle. During another major offensive in the city of Toretsk, Russian infantry with 2 armored personnel carriers were advancing towards a Ukrainian village. A Ukrainian reconnaissance plane spotted this activity early on. One of the armored personnel carriers hit a mine and exploded. The Russian soldiers on board made a forced landing and scattered in different directions to hide from Ukrainian drones. This kind of defensive maneuver proves once again how important it is to be prepared for sudden enemy attacks. Ukrainian drone operators had anticipated this situation and had already made preparations. A second Russian armored personnel carrier was attacked by Ukrainian kamikaze drones. When armored vehicles are targeted with explosives with low destructive power, they sometimes receive only superficial damage and can continue their mission. Such situations once again demonstrate the resilience of armored vehicles on the battlefield and the necessity to neutralize them with additional attacks. The vehicle's armor resisted the first attack and continued the attack. But another kamikaze drone targeted this carrier. Meanwhile, 2 MTLB light armored personnel carriers entered the Ukrainian village. The MTLB is a versatile military vehicle used for various logistical support tasks as well as troop transportation. One of the vehicles was disabled and the Russian infantrymen in it quickly fled. However, these soldiers became the target of bomber drones. The Russians began looking for hiding places among the abandoned houses of Ukrainians. Another MTLB was attacked by a bomber drone immediately after landing its troops. On the battlefield, even the best strategies can break down when faced with the unexpected. Russian soldiers tried to hide between houses, but Ukrainian drone operators were watching their every move. A Russian soldier tried to evade a drone by hiding behind the metal sheet of a fence. But this effort was also fruitless. In modern warfare, technology limits even the areas where the enemy can hide. Russian soldiers hiding in houses were detected and targeted one by Ukrainian drone operators. The precision strikes of the bomber drones neutralized the soldiers' hiding places one by one. This process demonstrates how, in modern warfare, technology has not only increased the ability to attack, but also to track and destroy. There was now nowhere left for the enemy to hide. Every corner, every supposedly secluded shelter was found one by one. Russian armored vehicles were effectively targeted and destroyed by the Ukrainian army. Each vehicle was either destroyed by heavy attacks or rendered completely useless on the battlefield. This process of destruction greatly hampered the enemy's ability to advance. The surviving Russian soldiers were under constant surveillance by Ukrainian reconnaissance drones. Their every move was carefully monitored and their next steps planned. In order to completely clear the village of Russian invaders, a Ukrainian tank was deployed. The tank opened intense fire on the houses where Russian soldiers were presumably hiding. With each shot, the silence of the village was interrupted by an explosion. The walls of the houses collapsing one by one. The flames spread rapidly, and some houses were soon completely burnt down. This further reduced the space for the Russian soldiers in the village. Every shelter became a target, and there was no safe place for the invaders. The powerful shells of the tank destroyed not only the structures, but also the enemy's resistance. Here is another damaged Russian armored personnel carrier. This vehicle was also completely destroyed by a tank shell. Immediately after the destruction of this vehicle, other tanks and armored vehicles were similarly disabled. The explosions showed enemy vehicles being destroyed one by one on the battlefield. These coordinated attacks prevented the Russian troops from advancing further. As a result, the Russian offensive was repulsed, marking another important victory for Ukraine. In another war zone, there was a remarkable movement. Ukrainian reconnaissance drones spotted a Russian military convoy with 7 vehicles. The first vehicle in the convoy was targeted and neutralized by a Ukrainian drone. The vehicle burst into flames and the soldiers on board panicked and ran away. Such targeted attacks seriously undermine enemy logistics and the ability to advance. The convoy's armored personnel carrier was targeted through its top hatch by another drone. After the drone infiltrated, it exploded and caused a large fire inside the vehicle. This rendered the personnel carrier completely non-functional. Then another drone targeted a tank and exploded after a kamikaze landing. This explosion started a small fire in the bush. Another drone made a kamikaze landing on the bed of a truck loaded with ammunition. As a result, a huge explosion occurred. The explosion not only destroyed the truck, but also heavily damaged the surrounding area. A Russian tank attempted to escape, destroying everything around it. A BMP armored vehicle moved out of the tank's way, allowing it to pass. A drone hit the fleeing tank and it continued to move forward despite the damage. Meanwhile, the soldiers in the BMP vehicle abandoned the vehicle and fled. Another drone then chased after the hit tank and completely destroyed it. The remaining BMP armored vehicle was also targeted and disabled by another drone. A Russian tank stationed in the trees was hit by a Ukrainian drone. The tank tried to escape quickly before it was destroyed. After traveling for a while, 4 soldiers, realizing that the tank would become completely unusable, got out of the tank and ran away. The Russian vehicle carrying soldiers was targeted by Ukrainian drones. However, just before the vehicle was hit, the soldiers inside managed to jump out of the vehicle at the last moment. This moment was a dramatic example of the survival instinct on the battlefield. A Ukrainian drone managed to infiltrate a fortified group of Russian soldiers who were preparing to fire. In a surprise attack, it neutralized these soldiers, disrupting the Russian side's firing plans. This successful operation of the Ukrainian army demonstrated that modern war technology and strategic planning combined to repel another attack. As the enemy's armored vehicles and soldiers were neutralized, Ukraine's spirit of resistance shone through once again. This story demonstrates once again both the difficulty of war and the importance of resistance. See you in the next extraordinary story.